Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the December session of Dr. Jaspersoft. Today will be about building reports and visualizations with JasperReports Web Studio. I have two guest speakers today. The first one is Julio, and the second one is Mario Dupont. Thank you both for joining us today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Right now, we'll just have a quick disclaimer. And then our next Dr. Jaspersoft session is the second Thursday of every month. So the next one will be January 9th, 2025, and that will be about the scheduler deep dive. The agenda today is what is JasperReports Web Studio, connecting to data, designing reports, and preview and exporting reports. I'm going to go ahead and let Julio take it away now.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar. Let's start by talking what is JasperReports Web Studio. Well, JasperReports Web Studio is a report designer for JasperReports. You are probably familiar with Jaspersoft Studio, which is a desktop application built on top of Eclipse. Well, JasperReports Web Studio, like the name says, it's built on the web. So it's a full web application to create reports. It supports pretty much all the features that are provided by JasperReports library, being it built on top of this library itself. So whatever is designed with Jaspersoft Studio Desktop can be loaded in JasperReports Web Studio, where you can keep designing your reports. So the main goal is to create JRXMLs, which is the format of the reports templates for JasperReports. Well, again, being based on JasperReports, it does support all the data sources that are provided by JasperReports. Data sources are the mechanism that is used to load data inside a report. So we support JDBC, JSON, XML. You can fetch a JSON or XML using a REST API, or you may want to use an Excel or a CSV, and so on. With JasperReports Web Studio, you can create reports of any complexity. And thanks to another piece of the family, the Jaspersoft family of products, which is called JasperReports.io, you can run a report directly inside JasperReports Web Studio. So technically, the report is executed through JasperReports library, but the component that takes the report and actually run it is this web application called JasperReports.io, which offer a REST API to execute reports. So JasperReports Web Studio embeds a version of JasperReports.io. Finally, being a web application, you can definitely install it on your desktop, but you can also run it in a cloud environment or maybe by using a Docker machine. So this allows to install this application in a single place and have several people, customers, users, report designers using the same environment, sharing the same resources, and so on. So say that, let's go to the next slide and let's see what we are going to build today. So to have a sense of how does it looks like creating a report in the web, we are going to create this this fictional financial report where we have a cover and we have, well, kind of a table divided in section with some totals and with page numbers and some graphical touches that we will see how to reproduce in JasperReports Web Studio. Okay, so let's start it. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, so here we are inside JasperReports Web Studio. I'll say this is a web application, so I find myself in my repository. So what is a repository? A repository is a place where I store all my assets. In JasperReports Web Studio, I can select or I can use several types of repositories, Google Drive, GitHub. I can use JasperReports Server as a repository. In this particular case, anyway, I'm using the default repository provided by JasperReports Web Studio, which is based on a special software called Jackrabbit. This is just a detail. What I see here is just like a set of files and folders that represent my assets. Now, in order to create the reports we have seen, I pre-created some steps just to save some time, because we risk to don't make it in the short time we have at disposal. And I will start with the cover. Here I have a cover JXML. And let's see why. Okay, virtual machine just. It's taking some time, sorry. All right, let's go with that. Here it is. I will say we are in my repository, Giulio Toffoli, default, and here we are going with the first step. So we start with this pre-made cover, let's say. Here we have a couple of images. We added these images first in our repository, and we uploaded them. They are just regular files, and we just created a couple of text field, or actually static text. So if I run my report here, I click on preview, and I can see my single page cover. Please note that there are no margins. When I created this report, in the report section, page format, I just removed all the margins. So we can have a nice full page graphics inside my report. Okay, well, that's definitely a static report. In fact, we don't load any data in this report. How comes we still get something without data? Well, because this report has been configured to just print all the sections of my report when there is no data. And these sections include the title band, which is the section we are filling with all our elements. In order to make this cover a little bit more reusable, we want to be able to specify title and subtitle by means of parameters. In order to do that, I go to Dataset, and I start by creating two parameters. The first parameter, let's call it title. And this is going to be just a string. And we can also provide a default value expression. This is an expression. I cannot type directly a value. I need to use an expression. That's why I'm adding my string between quotes. And this could be just title, right? Or maybe title text, so we can tell it from what we have right now here. And I want to set this parameter with the flag is for prompting. So when I will run this report, Studio will ask me to provide a value for this parameter. And then let's create a new parameter, and let's call it subtitle, just like this. And here we can put something like 2024. All right, let's close this. Save it. Now that we have our parameters, we need to use them inside the report. These elements are static text fields, and they are not meant to be dynamic. In order to be able to use my parameter with this element, I'm going to transform this element to a text field. So I'm converting a static text to a text field. Now, probably you can simply drag the text field here, but this menu is just a very convenient shortcut to transform a static text to a text field and eventually a text field into a static text. double click on my text field now, I see the expression editor that allows me to change the expression for this text field, and I will double click on my parameter title. Let's do the same for subtitle. Convert this to text field, double click, I remove the subtitle, static value, let's say, and I set the parameter one. All right, let's save and run it. Now we see that what we are displaying here are the default values for my two parameters. If I specify something here, for instance, Dr. Jasper, and as a subtitle, I set the number 2025, and I run my report again, these two values will be used to set the value for the title and subtitle. A couple of other notes about this report. As you can see here, I added a date. A date is set by using an expression like this one, Java util date. And I formatted this date by using the text field pattern expression, not really an expression. I use a static way to format my date. And with this pattern, I will able to see the month, day, and year. All right, nothing more than that. Let's, I saved this already. Let's move forward with our financial report. The second step is the report that implements the table. And for this one, we will start with the step one of our financial report. Again, just like for the first one, this is just a basic report that I started working with in order to save some time. Let's run this report and see what we get as a starting point. Well, we get some records displayed in a table-like form. There are 2 pages. Well, I also used some formatting here already in order to format the number here with the $sign. I added header, or I just put a title here, and the footer is empty. All right, pretty basic report. Let's start by trying to do an alternate background for my rows. In order to do this, I just select all my elements in the detail band. The detail band is the band that will be repeated for each record. And again, by using the new shortcuts menu here, I will enclose my elements into a frame. Now, if we look at the outline view, we see now that my elements are now contained inside this frame. And this frame is what I will use to paint in some way the background for my row. In order to do this, I go to colors, and first I want to be sure that the background is not transparent. And well, by default, it takes a white color. Now, if I run this report, nothing has changed. Actually, visually, it's not changed, but all my records are now inside a frame that is providing a white background. Let's see now how we can change this background in a conditional way. So here, when I click on a gray area, I go to the report section of my properties. I go to styles, and I start by creating a new style. Let's give a name to the style, which could be something like alternate background. We will keep essentially this style empty without defining anything, but we will add here a new, let's say, sub-style, or what we call conditional styles. A conditional style is a style that modifies its parent based on a condition. And the condition we want to use in this case is check that the current record we are evaluating is even. Well, or odd, depends by how we want to start. But in this case, we will do something like we would take the report count variable. The report count is a variable that gives us at any time the number of records that have been processed or displayed in my report. So if I divide with the rest by 2, this %2 means divide the report count by 2 and take the rest. If this rest is actually 0, that means that this number can be divided by 2, and in other words, this number is even. Which means that this condition is true only if I'm evaluating an even record. Now, once we created our expression here, we go to appearance and set a different color for the background. Again, I want to be sure this is not transparent. And let's pick like a light gray for my record. Okay, something like that should be okay. All right. We have now our alternate background style. Let's apply this style to the frame. So let's select my frame, go to styles, and set alternate background as style. Let's save and preview my report. Good. Now we have all my records painted with a different color for each line, which is perfect, exactly what I wanted. Good. So let's go to the next step. We want to add a page number at the bottom of our page. And to do that, we are going to use clearly the page footer band. Now the page footer band here, let's make this a little bit bigger and see how we can print the page number. Well, let's start with 2 text fields. I'm going to drag this text field from the palette, just like that. Now let's align these elements here. I will use this reference here, and then I will use the other field to make this close. And all this part about alignment, snap to grid, and the snap to geometry is something that have been added to the latest version of JasperReports Web Studio. All right, now we have 2 text fields. Let's make this a little bit bigger in terms of fonts, otherwise you will not be able to see anything. Let's use like 20 pixel. Okay. And let's change the first one. So in the first one, we want to print the current page number. And to do this, there is a built-in variable provided by JasperReports, which holds the number of page I'm in right now. And to print the total number of pages, well, we are going to print the same variable. Well, this sounds like strange, but we will clarify this in a second. Now, when we have a text field always have an evaluation time, which tells to JasperReports when the content of this text field needs to be evaluated. By evaluating the page number at evaluation time now, I have the effect to print the current page number. But like I will do in this case, if I ask JasperReports to evaluate this text field at report time, this will hold the final page number, or actually the last value held by this variable. The result is that I get something like page 1 of 3, page 2 of 3, up to the latest one, which is 3 of 3. Okay, good. We created 2 text field. It works. But the point of having 2 text field is that it makes difficult to properly format an expression like page X of Y. Yes, definitely there are tricks. I can align this on the right, this on the left, and make that closer as much as possible. Try to align this on the right side anyway. It's going to be cumbersome. Also, the size of this text field may change based on the number of pages. So let's look for a different solution. I'm going to create another text field here, which is the only one actually I will use. Let's copy and paste this one so we can also get what we need already. Let's do something a little bit more interesting. In order to be able to use a single text field to print both the current and the last page number. To start, I create a variable by going to dataset variables, and I will call my new variables something like current page number. Now, you can use the name you want. It's just makes sense to me, this kind of name. This variable is of type integer. There is no calculation. And this value, or the expression for this variable, will be the same as page number. In other words, at every iteration, JasperReports will assign the value of page number to my variable without performing any calculation. I also want to reset the value of this variable every time the page changes. So every time the page is changed, JasperReports will assign to my current page number variable the value of this expression, the page number. Now, if now I assign to this text field my new variable. Now let's remove this, go to variable, current page number, save and preview. I should see now my page number 1, and then 2, and then 3. Perfect. We are almost there. At this point, we have a variable that holds the page number. And I'm going to concatenate a string here of to create the form page X of Y. And here I will use the built-in variable page number. So now we have current page number and page number. And now comes the magic. If I set as evaluation time for this text field the value auto, which is automatic, I will get exactly what I want. Let's try, and then I will explain what the magic does. Okay, so we have 1 of 3, and then 2 of 3, 3 of 3. So single text field for page X of Y. Now, what happened? Well, simply JasperReports will evaluate the expression, will actually check the expression, and will use as a value for each variable that are mentioned in the expression, their value at their reset time. And if you remember, we set as a reset time for the current page number, the page, while the default reset time for the page number variable, the built-in one, is the report. And by looking at them at their reset time, I'm able to have this expression working as expected. Cool. So going forward with the concept of with the report. Let's move forward with the report. I just want to align this to the right. Or we want to have different section of the report. One for the records that are of type expenses, and one for the records that are of type income. So the data that we are using for this report is something we did not check out yet, but let's check where the data comes from and how we are printing this. So if I go to dataset, here I see there is a data adapter section. So the data adapter we are using right now is fetching from my repository a JSON file which contains just records related to this fictional financial report. If I show the query editor, I can actually get the metadata out of my JSON. And this is really a super simple JSON with a set of objects having this property. And one of these property is type. Now, when we have this kind of JSON where we just have an array of plain objects, I don't need to specify any special query, even if I set this report to use the JSON query language, which would allow me to perform some filters. In this case, I don't need any query. If I read the fields, it will repopulate the fields automatically. So I can define fields manually. But when I can, and if the data source allows this, I can just click on read fields, and JasperReports Web Studio will just pre-populate the fields for my report. Once it's done, I can preview my data and verify that the data was loaded correctly. Now, again, as you can see here, I have a type field, and type field, the value that can we have is expense or income. Also, the data is already pre-ordered. This is, well, probably a case that if it would not be pre-ordered, we could still use an expression by using the sort field. When we use SQL, 99% of the case, what we want to do is use an order by closure. But when I'm not working with SQL and I get my records in the order that were stored in a file, but I can still have the options to let the JasperReports resort this data. Now, why I may want to sort this data? Well, clearly for the semantic of the report, but also it's important when I use groups. And this is exactly what we are going to do now. We are going to group our data by creating a group. And this group, in this case, we want to group the data based on the type of my record. And this is why I call my group type. We are going to use this expression for grouping, just the value of the type field. And again, if the records will not be in order, which means first all the one of a type, then the ones of another type, I risk to have different, of strange behavior in grouping, right? Because every time the value change, a new group starts. By having my records sorted in advance, JasperReports will just create, in our case, two groups, expenses and income. All right, let's close this. Once I created my group, I notice that in the outline view, I get two new bands. The group header type, which I'm going to add to my report, and the group footer type, which is also something I'm going to add to my report. Let's display the value of the type that makes up this group. This header and footer will be printed every time the expressions of the group changes. And the expression is actually just the type. So we can add here the type like this. And let's format this a little bit. Let's use this like 25 again. And maybe this is going to not to be transparent with a color, being super light color on this one. Oh. Cool. Let's run our report and see what's the result up to now. Good. So we have our group header, which start with expense. Well, we could actually use a different title, but that's the value of the field. We have some space, which is provided by the group footer, and then we have the income. So we divided our data into main sections, which is what we wanted. Let's proceed and perform some calculation. We want to have totals here. Well, we will not have enough time to make all the possible totals we want, but let's start at least with showing at the end of our group the total value for whatever is the type, expenses or income. To do this, we go to dataset and we create a variable. And this variable is will be something like group total. That's the name I give. Or it could be also type total if you want to avoid problem if or confusion if we have multiple groups. The type of my total is a real number, which means I need to select double as type of my variable. This will be sum, and the expression will be just the Q1 variable, actually field, right? So this will accumulate the value that is expressed in each record by the field Q1. Cool. Now let's close this. And well, not enough. If I leave this like that, I will end up having the value for all the records. But we actually want to reset this value every time my group type changes. So every time the group type changes, I will start again from 0. All right, let's close this, save, and let's print my new variable here. Let's do by means of a text field. I want to align this text field here. I know this is going to be a big number, so let's provide some room here. And let's align my text field to the right and set like 16 pixels for my value. And what we are going to print? Well, of course, we are going to print the value held by our variable type total. Great. Now, this is a number. So in order to have something nice, we're going to format that. And in order to show 2 decimal numbers, I will use .00. We also want to show at least one number before the decimal. And if there are more numbers, these are denoted by this symbol. I may want to use a 1000 separator. So here, something like dash, I don't remember the name of this character, comma, dash, dash, 0.00. This will allows me to define, well, simply use the decimal and 1000 separator. Okay, let's save this report and preview. Okay, we are at the beginning of my group, And here, finally, we have our value, which is 1 million something. Let's go forward. And here we have 1,000,008, which makes totally sense. These are the numbers I know are correct. I also want to show something, a nice other option here. And let's say we want to show this value, not at the end, but at the beginning of my group here. And let's see what happens if I just copy and paste this here. And maybe I will set this in the middle. All right. If I just print this, I'm not gonna get the right values. I actually get none. Why is that? Well, because at this point in time, while the report is generated, I did not do any calculation yet. And this is just the time at which the variable get reset. So in order to get the total number for this group in advance, again, I will use the evaluation time. And in this case, I will use evaluation group time, which means take the value at the end of my group and print it in the group header. So how many page behind and so on. And here is the how does it work. All right. Well, we have seen several things. Time unfortunately flies, so we could go ahead for hours and see many other things. But if there are questions, I think Paul, you are collecting some questions. Let's spend some time and try to reply to them.
Sounds good. Thank you, Giulio. The first question I have here is, what are the main differences to the Eclipse Base Studio available with Community Edition versus the Web Studio?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, clearly there is a big overlapping between the two products, being the two report designer for JSON. The main difference is the target that is supposed to be well defined for each product. Jaspersoft Studio Desktop is a full-featured JSON and designer, which also features the capability to work with advanced reporting things like creating scriptlet, like working with Java parts, and in general is a well-matured and stable application to create reports. JasperReports Web Studio, on the other hand, is much more user-friendly for people starting with the reporting design. And in particular, they can just use the web environment, which is much easier in many cases. I'm thinking, for instance, in the use case where this kind of tools needs to be provided to customers that don't want to install an application on their computer. They just want to use a cloud-based application to design their reports. Also, applications like JasperReports Server uses JasperReports Web Studio as an embedded editor for JSON. That means that you don't have to leave your web environment in order to create reports. Finally, well, there is the big advantage of sharing a common repository, because being the repository on the cloud, or actually in wherever environment with the web access you are going to use, all the report designers can share the same resources if they want.
Great answer. Thank you, Giulio. We have another question from a customer. Can the report layout be dynamically determined and then selected by Jaspersoft based on the specific variables in the data file?
Yes. You are not directly going to tell JasperReports which templates to use. You may really want to use, let's call it a master report, which by means of parameters or a field value coming from a data source may decide to include different type of subreports, or by using print when expressions, you may have several details band, right? I may have here several details band, and for each detail, I have a print when expression. So I may decide to print only one of them based on some condition in this one that could be, for instance, my master report.
Awesome. The reports created on this platform can directly connect to Jaspersoft server. So Jasper Reports server. They're wondering if it can connect directly to that.
Well, as I said, when you work with JasperReports Web Studio, you always use a repository to store your assets. Now, when it comes to work with JasperReports Server, I can use JasperReports Server as a repository. That means that when I see files and directories here, what I can is to connect to JasperReports Server and see the JasperReports Server data or folders and then files and report units. So let me log out from my current environment, which is Jackrabbit, go to the home of my JasperReports Web Studio. And here you can see there are several options to log into different repositories. If I log into JasperReports Server, I get asked to connect to a JasperReports Server instance. And from here, I can modify existing report unit, create new report units, change everything I want in terms of reports. And I will do this through this JasperReports Web Studio standalone, which means it's really an external application that interacts with JasperReports Server by using the REST API in a similar way as Jaspersoft Studio Desktop does. The other alternative, clearly, is just working with JasperReports Web Studio or the Report Web Designer inside JasperReports. So.
Awesome, that's really cool. One more question. Is it possible to use scriptlets and upload the related jars in Jaspersoft Web Studio?
Yes, it's possible to use the scriptlets just like you can provide your own JDBC drivers. So what do they have in common? Well, they are Java code that is executed in the context of a report execution. How do I provide my scriptlet? Well, I need to be sure the scriptlet is in the class path. Or when working with a repository like this one, what I need to do is inform JasperReports.io that when a particular report is executed, it should load in the class path also that specific jars. And in order to provide the jars, I create a special folder like JRInf. I have one here, but I'm missing an important file, which is called context.xml. And this context.xml, for which JasperReports Web Studio also provides a designer or an editor to easily modify the content, allows me to specify which jars taken from the repository should be loaded by JasperReports.io. Again, I can define different JRInf at different level. This JRInf should sounds to anyone working with the Java web application. It remembers the web-inf file, right? And so JRInf is something that is similar.
Awesome. Thank you for all the answers. We appreciate it. At this point, we'll go ahead and move to Mary Dupont. He's our next presenter.
Thank you, Paul. And yes, I will leave the screen to Mary Dupont.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Julio. Now, okay, let me share my screen first. So now I will present you how to create a dashlet Jasper report on Jasper on JWS. So using PostgreSQL adapter and some HTML chart. So here I already created some adapters here. I'll be using some adapter. This is the adapter that I will gonna use. So here you can see I have connected to my local DB. Also, you can connect to your own DB whenever whichever you want, and then you can test from here. So this is the adapter I will be using to create the dashlet report. So let's go forward with that. I will click on new, and when I click on new report, here this is the design page here. And now since I will gonna create use high chart to create the dashlet report. So I will not uh, need all these design bands. So I will remove these design bands like title and page header. So to remove it, I will cross from here directly, and it should remove the bands that I don't need. So let us remove. Yeah, yeah, and I will need the summary band since I will only using the pie chart to create the dashlet report. So here you can see the summary here, and you can adjust the size according to your requirements. And here you can see margin over here. So in order to remove the margins, yes, you go to the page format here, and you can see the margin here. From here you can see remove the margins as you wanted. Uh, yes, here we go. Yes. Now we have removed the margins. Now I will need the high charts. Now I will drag the high charts from here. Let us drag the high charts. Here we go. So now I will going to fit the high charts to the full height and length. So to the summary event. So in order to fit it, you need to click on the upon clicking on this trailer, you will get to see the adapt to container. Here click on fit both. It will fit both the cover all the maximum length and height. So here we go. And now yes. So now you can see this one, and now I will need the data. So click on the data set. Here you can see the data adapter here. Now select the data adapter that you want to use to create or to populate the data for this report. So I will be using this player adapter. Click open. And now I will going to use, since it is SQL based, so I'll let it be the default is SQL. So let me write some query. Before that, I'll let me see whether there is any fields or not. Yes, there is no any fields. So let us write some simple SQL query to read the fields from players. So let me read the fields. Yes, here we go. Now you can see the fields, or also if you want to preview the data, what kind of data here you can see I have some data, some players goals data, where football players goals data here. So here we go. Now next, this is the data that I will going to use to populate for the report. I will go back to properties here, and now I will click on this high chart, and here high charts and data, all this tab will be tabs are appeared. So now what you can do, click on high charts. Here you can see under type, by default bar chart has been selected. So I will going to use column for this demo, and if you need, you can change or you can select any of the type that you wanted. So here I have selected the column, and I'll go to the data here. Now I will need to select the categories and measures and series. So first I will add some categories to categorize the data, since So here you can see category. Now let me put some labels. So I will categorize the data. I will goals data based on the based on nation. So let me nation here, and this expression, since I will be categorize it into nation, so I will select the nation fields. Yes, and this is string. So the type will be string here since it is a string. And yeah, non order is non. Done. So now next again, I will also add some series over here. Let us add some series. So series, I will add some configuration since I have this field in my data. So here this is the configuration. Yes, and this is also a string. So let me select the string type. Here we go. Now measures. How you want to measure the data. So I will measure the data based on number of goals. So goals per country. So here the value expressions will be the goals. I will select the goals that the this is the fields and this is integer. Yes. And by default it will calculate the sum. So either you can select or you can keep it as it is. So here we go. Now let me preview it how it looks like. Let us see. Here we go. Now you can see the report. It is pretty, the levels are level is appeared, and also the graph is bit small. So now you can let us remove the legend. So in order to remove the legend, click on high chart, and under high chart here you can see the legend here. From here you can by default the show legend has been set to true. You can set it to false in order to remove it. Or also if you want to add some title over here, you can add some title. Like let us add some title like goals, right? Goals, and also you can set some font color if you want. Whatever font color you want, you can set it here, or you can let me set this color. And also font family also you can edit. Let me add some category, right? And font size. So this also other some properties are there. You can add these properties to the title according to your requirements. Also there is some subtitle, so you can add some subtitle like goals, like something like players goals, right? Players goals. So here we go. The same way you can also add some, make some changes to this color, add some changes, designs to this subtitle like colors, family, or whatever, based on your requirements. So let us preview this. Yes, here we go. The legend is removed, and also some titles are added here. So here the page format, you can see it is the length and the height is very it's so long. So you can either reduce you can reduce or customize the page format as well. So when you click on this gray color on this outside of this design, then you can see the under page format, you will get to see the width and the height. So here, since by default 842 is selected, so either you can set it to 700 or whatever width or height you are trying to achieve, or you are trying to keep it. You can keep it. You can give it here. So now let me preview it. It should reduce the page size. Here you see this perfectly reduce it, and you can change it according to set it according to your page format here, and design the dashlet report here. So here we go. This is the report that I was trying. I was trying to create, and here we go. We can you can see the goals, number of goals per country, where I have categorized it to nations, and this is the series where it is on based on configurations it is shown. Also the titles are shown here. And that's it. That is all from my end. Thank you. I hand over to you, Paul. Thank you. Let me stop my sharing.
Thank you very much for both of our guest speakers. I do appreciate it. Let me just share these slides real quick. As always, here are the resources that we posted here in our presentation decks. They'll also be posted on YouTube. You can always reach out to us either on the community forums. If you're a commercial customer, please log a case. Anyone else, check us out on YouTube, community forums, any ways you want to contact us. Please, we'd like to hear from you and everybody. One last thing is you can also email me, reach me out to Dr. Jaspersoft at connect.jaspersoft.com. And thank you both for presentation. Thank you for joining our December session. We do appreciate it. And everyone take care and have a good day.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.